2022 at 9:05 a.m. Located at the Marshall County Election Center, 107 South First Avenue, Marshalltown, Iowa. Notice to the public, the Board of Supervisors welcomes comment from the public during the time allowed for discussion. You are requested to approach the microphone, state your name for the record, and limit the time used to present your remarks in order that others may be given an opportunity to speak. The normal process on any agenda item is for the chair to read the item from the agenda. The board is given an opportunity to comment on the issue and or place a motion on the floor. An opportunity for discussion may be presented, at which time the public may participate and a roll call vote will follow. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Carrie, would you call the roll, please?
Patton,
Here.
Thompson,
Here.
Clausen,
Here. Okay. Item number 4 on our agenda this morning is to approve the agenda. Entertain motions on this item, please.
Chair, I make a motion then to approve the agenda.
And Mr. Chair, I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any comments, questions, or concerns? There being none, roll call vote, please.
Patton,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Clausen,
Yes. Motion carries. Item 5 on our agenda this morning is service awards. We have 20 years for Brad Nichols. He's the superintendent of secondary roads. If there is one job that is absolutely takes all the blame in this organization, other than the Board of Supervisors, it is our secondary road superintendent. Brad's done this for 20 years. He works with the public and all the crews on secondary roads. Every time I've ever called on him, and he's been great to work with. I know he does the same thing with everybody else, and I'd like to congratulate him on 20 years of service and hopefully a few more. Paul, he works for you. You got anything to add to that?
Brad does an amazing job at juggling knives. I know I say I have to do that, but he does twice as much knife juggling as me. And as far as a lot of what he does is while we're still sleeping all winter. He's out checking roads 3 a.m, and we're nice and warm in bed. He's out in the cold. And also as far as, getting, we all get, we have to take concerns from citizens on our personal time, but Brad does a lot of that where he's out and about. He's always got the public out, bending his ear, and I know he has a lot of that too. So I appreciate everything he does.
Yeah, you never escape it. If you would get his certificate to him with our congratulations, I'd appreciate it. Thank you very much. Item number 6 on our agenda this morning is the consent agenda. Approve the regular session minutes of November 8th, 2022 and special session minutes of November 15th, 2022. Approve the claims as audited. Approve claims as audited and authorize the county auditor and recorder to issue payment of the same. The listings of claims paid at this meeting and all claims paid in the current months will be published as part of the first meeting the following month. File a sheriff's quarterly report for 2022's third quarter. File a voluntary annexation request from the city of Albion. Approve motion requesting juvenile court services to utilize alternative funding for all CIJDC evaluation services. This is the end of the consent agenda, and I'll entertain motions on that, please.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve the consent agenda as read. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any further comments, questions, or concerns? There being none, Sherry, roll call vote, please.
Patton,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Clausen,
Yes.
Motion carries. We've got some personnel changes to go through this morning. Item 7 on our agenda. The first one is to approve the status change for the engineering department. Wes Spencer, change of position from mechanic 2 to mechanic 3 from $27.88 an hour to $28.40 an hour, beginning on or after November 25th, 2022. Entertain motions on this change, please.
Mr. Chair, I would make a motion to approve the status change engineer department West Spencer changing position from mechanic 2 to mechanic 3 from 27.88 an hour to 28.40 an hour, beginning on or after November 25th, 2022.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second on the floor to approve the status change that is per union contract. Any further comments, questions, or concerns?
One was Weston with you.
He's just in his completing his first year, so this is just progression in training. But with the mechanic grade.
Anything else? Okay, Sherry, roll call vote, please.
Patton,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Wassick,
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 7 on our agenda this morning is to approve the treasurer's office status change of Katie Scher from part-time to full change with no change in the wage rate of $17. Effective, we do not have an effective date.
Jared, are you on, the meeting?
Yes, yes. Can you hear me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Could we, at request of this employee, could we table or delay this to a further meeting due to the employee's circumstances, please?
Absolutely. We will,
Thank you very much.
thank you. I'll entertain motions to table this item if you would, please.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we table item 7B until another meeting.
I'll second.
We have a motion to table this item until a further meeting. Sherry, would you call the roll for that, please?
Patton,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes,
Wassick,
Yes.
item is tabled until further notice. Item 8 on our agenda this morning is to approve Paul Geilenfeld's employment contract and agreement renewal through 11/30/2025. I'll entertain motions on this item, please.
Mr. Chair, I would make a motion then to approve for the contract agreement with County Engineer Paul Geilenfeld III through November 30th of 2025 and authorize the board to sign.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the employment contract. Any further questions, comments, or concerns? There being none, roll call vote, please, Sherry.
Patton,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes,
Wassick,
Yes.
motion carries. Item number 9 on our agenda this morning is the Edler Corporation proposal for road improvement at Marshall County Farms LLC, Kevin Blood Dairy Farm. Entertain motions on this item.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve the Elder Corporation proposal for road improvement at Marshall Farms LLC, Kevin Blood Dairy Farm in the amount of $40,105 and authorize the chair to sign.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this. Just for the record, we're putting this on the agenda for approval by the board. This is something that our county engineer could handle strictly throughout his budget for maintenance and doesn't necessarily need board approval. However, in this economic development thing, I think it's appropriate that we do stand behind this as an entire board. You have anything to add to that, Paul?
No, I just appreciate that. This isn't the first proposal we did. There was quite a bit more strip stockpile, the topsoil in the borrow areas, and I can reduce it to the proportionate amount of our excavation instead of just splitting the strip and salvage 50-50. We were more like a quarter of the total earthwork of the project, and so I got them to reduce that, which reduced the cost quite a bit. I think $18,000, and I also took the rock surfacing out of this proposal because we can do that with our own crews, and we will, rock it to keep the road proper anyway once we get the grading completed. It does look like this can proceed even this week, so.
Okay.
It's unusual we get dirt work done this time of year.
Exactly, and I haven't spoke with them today, but what I can see in the weather looks like they're gonna be able to move some more dirt, so.
For those that don't know, Blood Dairy Farm has a payroll of over 150, possibly more employees with their latest expansion. They're one of the 2 dairies in the entire state of Iowa that produces enough quality milk for the butterfat content in it to be able to supply Anderson Erickson Dairy and their exceedingly high demands. That in itself is a huge thing to be proud of for these folks. They've always been extremely good corporate citizens and partners in Marshall County as far as the things that they do, and they don't get enough credit for being an economic driver of several things in our outside in our county.
And this is it's not an aesthetic improvement that we're doing with the roadway. We're changing the grade of the roadway to geometrically allow the trucks to get into the driveway where they're relocated driveways. Because the dairy trucks can handle the steep grade drive, and so we're just making it so they can get a safe access that's workable with the trucks.
Okay. Anything else on this item? Sherry, roll call vote, please.
Patton,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 10 on our agenda this morning is to adopt resolution number 2022-0035, abatement of mobile home taxes. This is for this resolution. Jared, if you're online, you want to cover this and what we do in these circumstances?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. These are all mobile homes that have been removed or junked from these from the mobile home parks, and it's just kind of the usual cleanup we do with these mobile home parks on a probably semi-annually basis or as they come to us. So that's all I have for these. Any questions?
Yes, Jared, it seems like 3 of these are unusually high. Is there a reason for that?
Those would be ones that had multiple years of taxes and a delay in that park getting the junk information to us. So they hadn't actually been in the park for the last couple of years, and they were delayed in getting it to us.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll entertain motions on this, approving this resolution, adopting, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to adopt resolution 2022-0035, abatement of mobile home taxes, and authorize the chair to sign.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt resolution 2022-0035, abatement of mobile home taxes, and authorize the chair to sign. Any further comments, questions, or concerns? There being none, Sherry, roll call vote, please.
Patton,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Wallace.
Yes.
All right, moving right along. Item number 11 on our agenda this morning is to approve courthouse construction change orders in the amount of $121,449.38. And please pay attention that this is broken down to owner's portion, being the county, the storm portion, being the tornado, and code improvements, which speak for themselves, and damages. Lucas, you want to go over this, please?
Yeah, most of these are just kind of cleanup stuff that we've had prices on for a long time that we've already actually had approvals on. This is just kind of contract cleanup stuff. Everything's in our budget and was planned improvements. We just need to get them on a change order. If you guys have questions on specific stuff, we can go over it, but nothing, there are no surprises here.
Okay, well, Mr. Chairman, at this point, then I would move to approve the change orders in the amount of $121,449.38.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the table to approve the change orders in the amount of $121,449.38. Any further comments, questions, or concerns? There being none, roll call vote, please, Sherry.
Patton,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes,
Wallace.
Yes.
motion carries. Item number 12 on our agenda this morning is Wallace Avenue near Green Mountain truck noise discussion and possible action.
I brought this to the agenda, or added this to the agenda. we had discussed this earlier in the year, this summer. We've got, people are using the Jake Break in the Green Mountain area. And I guess personally, I don't feel there's any reason, there's no need for Jake Break on those flat roads up there in the Green Mountain, just outside of Green Mountain. And I guess to control that, I would like to, I'd like to offer the idea of putting up signs. It would be, I think it would take 2 signs. One at the junction of the Garwood Blacktop and the Green Mountain Blacktop, and then probably one north of the school. Now, John, can you add to that? Would that be fair assessment?
The only thing is, since I've been here and we discussed it, I guess I've been more tuned to hearing the sound, but I'm actually hearing them south of the Garwin Road intersection. And some of my petition signers live south of the Garwin Road and Wallace Avenue intersection. So it's bothering them too. And actually, when the subject comes up with just at the barber shop or wherever, people are not happy with that, no matter where they live in the county. So, but that's another issue. The issue is around Green Mountain. So I think it could actually go south of the intersection. And so someone might say, well, then you have east-west Garland Road. But it seems that most of this truck traffic is either northbound or southbound through that intersection. It doesn't come from the east or west. So you might want to go farther south than the intersection, but the south side.
Yeah,
Is my recommendation.
few hundred yards.
Yes, to please those petition signers.
And the east-west road, there is no stop sign.
That's correct. It's a straight through.
A
So
break.
exactly, that's a good point. I hadn't thought of that. That's a good point. And so I've also noticed that I can see the intersection from my property. I can see the intersection of Green Mountain Road and Wallace from my property. And I earlier this year, I heard a truck using Jake brakes going north. And as soon as he was approaching the school, he was using the Jake brake. So I looked toward the intersection. It was a semi-tractor with no trailer whatsoever. So I mean, I call that abuse. That's ridiculous. So, and it's not just the hog haulers, it's virtually all types of semi. Now you also was discussed, was talking to JBS. Did anyone do that, or is that happened or not?
I didn't talk to JBS. I think we
I didn't either.
decided that.
I know I talked
More
to
than
him.
just JBS, but
I talked to him prior to meeting with you, and he said, I talked to the transportation manager, that's who was listed in the phone book. I figured, I didn't know what their structure was down there. I figured he'd be a good one to talk to, and he said, well, there was really nothing they could do. So, but then that's coming from me, who has no authority whatsoever. So maybe he was just blowing me off. I don't know.
you are the mayor of Green Mountain.
Well, that's what I mean. No power, no authority, and no budget.
Paul, you were gonna look into maybe what the costs for the sign.
I did, and I'm just looking at what the sign costs, and with our hourlies and equipment, you can figure each sign to be about $330 for us to put up. We get to figure that out quite a bit with insurance claims anyway, as far as what our, you know, when someone gets a sign on their vehicle. But I also, in driving around, I noticed that State Center has engine brake signs up at every entrance to State Center. And so I thought, well, I wonder if they have an ordinance. So I stopped with the city clerk, asked them if they do have an ordinance that they just put in place, I think last August. And I sent an email to the State Center chief, and he hasn't responded back. Just wondered if he had any recommendations to us, if in fact you were going to consider an ordinance. I don't know if that's even anything you're thinking about. But I do have extra copies of the State Center ordinance if anybody wants it, just to peruse to see how they.
I might add that Albion also has, at least they have the signs posted now. I assume they have an ordinance, but I notes that they have.
I was just curious if they had just the signs and no ordinance, or if they actually had an ordinance backing the sign, or if they just wanted to put the signs up, like that works. And I haven't heard from the chief if they've seen any.
Most of our contract enforcement towns, incorporated towns, they do have ordinances. I can't remember my 20 years ever writing a break ordinance violation. Typically, we have those conversations with those commercial vehicles. I just want to caution the board, because if this is going to be a county-wide ordinance for specific areas, be cautious where this may lead, those unintended consequences, especially with our noise ordinances. I mean, it's engine brakes today. Is it loud exhaust pipes on motorcycles or cars tomorrow? So I caution the board to put some thought into this. But we'll do whatever we want. We obviously want peace throughout the county. It's just one of those things we need to think about.
The difficulty that you explained to us last time we talked about this, there's no way of enforcing this.
It's very difficult. And I can't give a legal opinion, obviously. There has been some case law in the code section that's arguable. It's very difficult to prosecute from the county attorney standpoint. Enforcing wise, giving the demographics of the area we're talking about, like Green Mountain. For most of the time, those commercial vehicles, if they are stopped by law enforcement, will proceed to a safe intersection or an area that's safe for everyone. At 3 o'clock in the morning, is there going to be a livestock hauler going down Wilson Street for us to conduct our traffic stop? I don't know that. But typically there's some issues with that enforcement. What's the distance? If it's going to be from sign to sign for the ordinance, look at the signs, is that where it's going to be enforceable? Where are we going to be able to notice this? Obviously there's decibel levels. Is it specifically engine brake? It's fairly identifiable what an engine brake is. Obviously, we have some deputies that are not familiar with that. It's a training issue. So there's some hurdles that we probably have to overcome for enforcement.
I guess I'm not looking for an ordinance. I just thought we would. The goodness of these truckers' hearts, if they would just go by the sign, they really don't want the sound in the Green Mountain area, especially if it's at night. I'd like to see if the folks would recognize that sign and do the right thing.
And that would be an option for just self-awareness for that. With the Highway 14 improvements, I noticed talking to the deputies, we have a data collector we have installed 3 to 4 times. It has not produced adequate or accurate data. I wish I'd be able to bring that to the board today. We have to send it back in again for some software update. So we're going to work on that. But with the improvements 14 with the deputies, I've had to monitor the traffic there. It has decreased significantly, but there is still commercial vehicle traffic going down that section of that roadway. I was hoping it would decrease or at least back to normal, but I don't think it has yet. I think it has reduced significantly since the summer we started repairs.
The unintended consequence we're going to get into if we put these up without an ordinance is down the road, you're going to have citizens from Green Mountain are going to look at that sign and call the sheriff's department and say, we want this enforced. And without an ordinance, there's nothing to enforce. That's a slippery slope we're going to get on. We've also been cautioned by the county attorney that enforcement of this from a perspective of the county attorney's office is very difficult. I would recommend personally, if we're going to do this, that there is an ordinance so that there is some enforcement. I understand where you're coming from, Steve, put up the sign. But if it's just going to be a suggestion, I think later on it's going to become a problem for the sheriff's department. And I hate to open that door and create a rift when people are going to expect enforcement when there's nothing to enforce.
If I may, also add to the discussion, Mr. Chair. In talking about the future and ordinances and, the slippery slope that we may come down, I also want us to kind of look at resources, because if we start looking at that and then go to another, and typically the ordinances that I've run across, especially when it comes to noise violations, is, what is unreasonable to you, and what is unreasonable for one person is completely different than what's unreasonable to the next person. We only have so many resources that we have to send out. So then we're going to be tying up those resources on those noise complaints. And when we have other higher priority emergencies coming in as well. So just something to kind of think about when you're looking at the totality and the future look of those resources and how many we truly have.
Dave, would you be happy with at least trying the signs first without an ordinance? Just to gauge.
I have no problem with it. The problem I'm going to have is down the road, the people that aren't at this meeting or are unaware that there is no ordinance that are going to call the sheriff's department and make a complaint when there's absolutely nothing they can do.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's what I mean.
That's going to be an issue.
And that's what I mean, see what the response is from people. There may,
I'm just hoping we don't put the cart before the horse in this particular instance.
Sue Blaisdell just
Yeah, we have a comment
made
here from
note
Sue.
that, her suggestion was to set up a camera that was, controlled by sound. I think that's the way she meant it to be. Yes.
And I'm
there's
glad
been-
that that's off the state center. It's, the thing I was nervous about was if you start talking, that's, this one doesn't, it just says if it's audible at 300 feet. That's a violation, and everybody knows you can hear an engine brake at 300 feet, you can hear it a lot of times at 3,000 feet.
Yeah, I can hear it at a half a mile at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Um,
And I'm a farm. Yeah, I don't know.
and I don't know what, if, you might be able to find out what luck state centers had with, are they writing that, are they citing this one, are they sticking, I don't know.
And you said you checked with John Thomas,
I
the chief
emailed
over
him,
there.
he did not get back.
Okay.
I was just curious if you had any advice for us.
Sheriff, have you spoken with Chief Thomas at all on this?
Specific,
John, has this noise thing just been here in the last year, or has this been something? I mean, Jake Craig's been for a long time.
yes, they have, I guess. It just happened, I don't know which incident brought to my attention, but they wake me up. And I thought to myself, wait a minute, that's not a sound that is absolutely necessary. That's not noise that is necessary in the middle of the night. And so then I just gave it some more thought and paid more attention and heard it. I hear it during the daytime when I'm working, and so that means there are people that are working night shifts that are sleeping during the day and hearing. So it's just, and I can't say it's increased over the last year, 2, 3, 4 years. I really can't say, but I just know that it's noticeable now. And most of the petition signers were happy to sign the petition.
This would be so simple if you guys were incorporated and could just pass your ordinance. And have it just be for you rather than the entire county.
The thing is too, they incorporate, well, if we did a minimal area of incorporation, my gosh, I'm hearing the brakes south of the Garvin Road intersection. We certainly wouldn't incorporate even near Garvin Road. So we'd be hearing the sound outside of our city and our city limits, we'd be hearing it. Does it come from the north? I hear it come from the north, I hear it come from the south. Quite a ways. So the corporation,
That's why you have to defer to the county because
of
that.
there's no way. Putting a pencil to incorporation
No.
is crazy. There's just no way. So it's really off the table. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is.
They like the contract with the sheriff, so it's still gonna be a sheriff's issue. You know, likelihood.
I can't exactly remember the comments that our county attorney said. Basically, he was saying, this is difficult to enforce. Do you remember what he said, Sheriff?
It comes down to perception of sound, like I said, we start talking about decibels, to get this accurate, we have to have specialized equipment, which adds costs in training and calibration. Like I said before, the engine brake identification is fairly simple. You start talking about other noises, what meets those criteria for that loud noise, or if it's specific engine brakes, or if there's a specific reason why they're using them, and if it's mistake code, they can't use those for emergencies. Now I do know they modify them. I've talked to a couple commercial vehicle enforcement officers, and they say it's definitely enforceable. It's just you have to make sure that you're doing it correctly when it comes down to ordinances. They didn't offer any, obviously they go by state code, any local ordinance options. And I asked if there's something we do with the suppliers, the specific organizations that are using the trucks in that route, and they said they usually have to talk with those companies, and it tends to lessen the use. But then again, if you start enforcing those traffic stops, it does help because word spreads very quickly. So does the successful dismissals of those citations or those violations. That's quickly also. So it's kind of like the sign, you put the sign up, but it's not enforced. That has a tendency to spread very quickly throughout the commercial vehicle operators. Either way, I will have the deputies do whatever's best for the county and the citizens as a whole. That's just one of those things where we'll be getting phone calls. Why isn't this being enforced? We have to explain that. But we do handle it now with some of our contract houses. Signs may be within the city limits, but like John explained, the noise comes far beyond.
Yeah. Are you aware of any other counties that have a countywide deal?
I think Secretary Sherry Copeneller had produced something from a couple of other counties. Whole county, theirs is broken up into sections because they do have some rural areas along with the commercialized. So they're broken up into areas as hours of operation. So that gets a little complex even, yes. Larger counties that do have that.
I think too, the petitioners would see signs and would be pleased to see them. And if they noticed or if they were upset that they didn't see the enforcement, they know that I was seeking the signatures. They would probably call me first and complain to me or ask me, why nothing would happen. So, and that'd be fine with me. But I believe that if the citizens saw that an effort was being made, and I think they would give it some time to see if it would spread between the, the drivers. I believe that would be reasonable to assume.
I guess again, I'm not interested in having an ordinance. I just want to put up a sign, consider it like a caution sign or something like that. I had a conversation with my son about this, and he said people using a Jake brake along that stretch of road are just showing off. If they're using a Jake brake, they're just showing off. So, for whatever it's worth.
Well, are we at the point we want to discuss this further? Request some more information, or Do you want to entertain motions and make a possible suggestion?
I'd like to see what some other counties are doing. Because if they're gonna do the same thing that Steve's talking about, and we see if it works or not. I'd kind of like to see that rather than, put $1,000 of signs up and then, just to see if it'll work and if it, you know. I'd like to see what maybe some other counties are doing. Would you be willing to wait on this for a
That's
little
fine.
bit then?
That's fine. Yeah, I can do that with some of the counties now. See if I can find them. Yeah, just to the board.
Okay. This,
That's what he said.
I will reach out to other counties that have similar, at least the ordinances in place and provide those to the board.
Now Pope's a different ballgame. And I'd like to hear what maybe Tama's doing or
Hardin County.
Hardin
Grundy.
County or Cerro Gordo or some of these others and,
that's the first time I've ever heard anybody refer to the great state of Polk County. It's just a little different than everybody else.
did I say that?
That might have been sarcasm.
I did.
Okay, I guess we're at the point where we've had our discussion. Our possible action is to instruct the sheriff and anybody else to look into this further and to look at this at another meeting. There's no need to table it. It's when you have that information, we can bring it back and work with John here from Green Mountain and get her done.
I would like one of you three to talk to JBS.
I got the same response you did.
Okay.
Anything else on this item?
Yeah, I'm afraid that I know the Jake breaks, I hear him out at my place and my goodness, I'm miles from the town. And those particular people are hog haulers and they're at 3 o'clock in the morning, they're going out to get hogs, but they're so anyway, if we can see what other counties are doing, I'd appreciate that. I'm not quite sure where we can go on this, but.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, moving right along is item number 13 was previously tabled. Anybody care to bring that back to the board?
Mr. Chairman, at this time, I would move to remove this or take it from the table at this point, which would be item number 13A.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to bring this item back to the table. Sherry, would you call the roll, please?
Patton,
Yes,
Thompson.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Steve, you've been in on this. You want to start her off or do you have comments?
I guess I would like Jody to open this up. Could you give us your comments?
Absolutely, Steve. Thank you very much. I guess I wasn't prepared to do that because at the last meeting, prior to the meeting, I was told that Mark Bethel had some input on this and I was going to try to respond to that, but I don't.
Mark has sent an email.
Okay, do you want to start with that?
I'll be happy to read it.
All right.
Received this yesterday afternoon. It simply states, good afternoon. I want to let all of you know that I will not be participating at the Board of Supervisors meeting scheduled at 9:05 on 11/22/22. I was unable to attend the previous Board of Supervisors meeting at 9:05 on 11/8/2022 due to a conflict, but he was able to view the video of the meeting online. The below subjects were discussed by Jody Anderson of Anderson Funeral Homes at the 11/8/2022 BOS meeting. Item 1, the bid for transportation to IOSME. And I'm assuming that is the state medical
Yes, sir.
examiner's office.
Yes, sir.
Okay, postmortem examination. And number 2, indigent cases for funeral home reimbursement. Both items 1 and item 2 were discussed and decided between the BOS at both funeral homes at a prior date. Neither I nor Dr. David Bethel, County Medical Examiner, were present during these meetings when decisions were made between the BOS and funeral homes. To the best of my knowledge, both funeral homes have provided transportation to the IOSME in Ankeny when requested by the Marshall County Medical Examiner's Office. The current discussion surrounding item number 1 will not solve the subject of item number 2, as both are totally separate items, each requiring their own set of policies and procedures. Thank you for your time. Respectfully, Mark Bethel, F-ABMDI. So we'll get that in. That is the email that came yesterday afternoon from Mr. Bethel. I did try to give him a call back and was not able to get him to respond.
He's spot on with that email. Neither one coincide with each other. So I'm gonna address one, probably won't even address the other because it's not on, that has nothing to do with it. But so what I want to address is the bid that you sent out to, I don't know who you sent it out to, individuals, 58 people is all I know. And that was funeral homes and that was EMS and that was a bunch of different people that were able to make this transfer. And I don't think the board clearly thought through the ramifications of having an outside provider provide this service to the county. I think you guys, I don't know why or how or who got you to that point that we're just going to send this bid out without not coming back to Marty and I. We had that meeting, like I spoke before, with the three of you, Dan, me and Marty, and we had an agreement. And what I did to come up with that letter that I provided for you for the fee for us to do it is that I did exactly what you just tried to talk about before, Bill. And I wrote down your quote. Did you ask what other counties were doing? Also said you'd like to see what the other counties are doing. Dave, you then came back and said, we'll do a follow-up when we have that information. Marty and I have 57 years of combined expertise in this. So gentlemen, I got an email about 3 months ago. I apologize, this is Brandon that works for me. 3 months ago from Dr. Bethel, along with Marty, and it simply stated, could you please try to respond in 1 hour? So as the time has progressed in this, I'm trying to think, what's the problem here? Is it the $695? Is it the response time? Gentlemen, we had 60 death investigations last year, this year, in the last 12 months. I pulled 25% of them. Okay. Brandon is a former law enforcement agent. He went through every single one of these. And Brandon, why don't you just kind of inject what this says and what it means?
So the way this is, any law enforcement agency or most have a way of documentation of, when a call for service is started, when the officers arrive on scene, and so on and so forth. So essentially, I just went through all these, for this certain call. I think this death investigation was just in Marshall County outside of Albion. The call was originated in 1925. And then, this one, for some reason, Tama County ME went, but so I highlighted when Tama County Medical Examiner was contacted. And then also when they contact the funeral home to respond to the scene. And then when the funeral home gets there and is completed with the call. Obviously, not every report might have exactly that, just because it's always up to the deputy or the officer to make sure that, Anderson's is 23 on scene, Mitchell's is on scene, or they have the deceased and they've completed the call. But that's what these all are. They're essentially called CAD command lines.
Thank you, Brandon. So what I did, gentlemen, is I went through and I put down an M in the time of response for Mitchell, A in the time of response for Anderson. And then this is 25% of the calls in the last year. And then I averaged it out. Our response time is 39.5 minutes. 39.5 minutes. So if that's one of the issues that you're concerned with, it's no longer an issue. if you're looking at the $695 fee, Tama County, I bill $695. Grundy County, I bill $695. I have funeral homes in both those counties. Poweshiek is $695. My buddy has a funeral home down there in Montezuma. Okay, Story County, which is where you got the bid letter from, is $645. It used to be $695, or excuse me, it used to be $800. A young man came in, started up a cremation monument thing. He underbid the $800 to $645. We, I believe, what I said was 50 some miles longer round trip to Ankeny and back in Story County. That bid also said in Story County, because I have many funeral home buddies over there, that it had to be a Story County firm that is transferring these. So I'm gonna give you a couple instances. I'm actually gonna give you a few. So over my time here in Marshalltown and Marty's, and I apologize, Marty's not here, he had a funeral this morning, but we did meet Brandon and I with him yesterday. Case in point, Friday night, we had a death investigation, okay? Wasn't sure if the body had to be transferred to Ankeny, okay? So I get there and Courtney, Officer Watson's there, along with another police officer. And she says to me, do you have a body bag? That's what I do. Of course I have a body bag. She goes, would you mind placing her in that bag and taking her to your funeral home? Courtney, absolutely. I have refrigeration. Okay, I have the facility right here. When will you let me know if I need to go to Ankeny or not? She goes, I'll try to tonight, otherwise first thing in the morning. Now, let's say Marty and I are not doing this job for you guys, the county. And you get a bid from Montezuma, Tama, you send them as far as Des Moines. And that body then has to go back and be housed. And then our Dr. Bethel has to go inspect, or Courtney. And oops, it doesn't have to go to Ankeny. Where does it go? Who goes and gets it? One of these reports, on January 1st, I believe the date was, we got a call for service down to Ferguson. Okay. Brandon lives in my Conrad funeral home. He was on call. He went with one of my part-time people. He made it in 57 minutes. It would have been faster if it wouldn't have been bad weather and bad roads. It was so bad that the ME didn't even come out. We brought the individual back to our funeral home. They came and did their investigation there. If you send this out, you're going to have, we won't be helping you, which means you'll have no place to house. You'll have no place for refrigeration. The morgue at the hospital does not have proper venting systems. Iowa Donor Network won't even use it. So, Bill, I'm going to look back to you, my friend. You said it right. Did you ask what the other counties are doing? If you don't want us to do it, we're okay. I truly am. And you and I have had this talk. And you know what's going to happen if you have to have an ambulance. Because I know the letters went out to EMS. So my recommendation is that you enter back into agreement with us. I'm not signing the contract. I won't speak for Marty, but I can tell you, you're going to get the same answer. It's been done this way for years. We want a price increase to the fee that all the other counties are getting. And we're happy to continue to help you. And if Dr. Bethel can't come, Courtney can't come, I've got refrigeration, Marty's got refrigeration. Like I said previously, we've got 9 removal vehicles, 6 or 7 licenses, and about 8 cots. What are you gonna do if you bid this out to somebody that's a one-man show? In our world, that's called a guy that runs a funeral home, 50 calls or so, 1 van, 1 cot, and you have a double fatality out on Highway 30. I just don't think it was thought through very properly, and I think you probably should have leaned on us for our expertise to help you. If you don't want us to do it, like I said, we're okay with it.
Now, you mentioned the price for did you mention you wanted more?
We mentioned in an open meeting that I gave you the letter that we were going from $395 to $695 to match what the other counties were doing. Okay. And I don't think I mean, I know there was some different billing, and because we didn't really have a formal meeting, that it didn't get recorded, and there was some different pricing. We need to sit down at the table, all of us, and say, we're gonna be $695. We're happy to help you. We'll help the county. I think if you go around and ask Sheriff Phillips, Chief Tupper, Ben, Courtney, they ain't gonna want to wait for somebody coming from miles away, which is gonna tie up more resources and more money, because isn't it true that an officer has to stay on scene? What if that person from wherever comes and the roads are bad and they can't make it? This is gonna sound mean. Don't call Marty and me. This is what you guys want. My recommendation, guys, let it go. Continue on. We'll address it later. And that's when I'll address the indigent cases. So the indigent case that I'm gonna talk about is another call that we went on where I sent my young man, freshly licensed, very good, and I trained him. And he got to the scene and he instantly red flagged it. And what that means is can't get a hold of the next of kin. Didn't look like we had family resources to pay for the services. So he calls me Easter Sunday. And I walk him through and we go back and forth. And we try to call the family, calling the family, and we just couldn't do anything. And Courtney says to Brandon, Brandon, can you just take him to the funeral home? And Brandon tells me that. And I said, yes, let's do that. Of course, we get the body removed to our funeral home, no payment.
Was there a reason you didn't contact the medical examiner at that time,
They were-
Dr. Bethel?
They were there.
Okay,
Oh, you're talking about the payment or the removal?
the payment.
Because I'm understanding that you guys won't pay if there's a family member.
Well, the case in point that I want to make is the medical examiner has the ability and the tools to do all the investigation. He has the full resources of the sheriff's department. He has the full resources of Veterans Affairs. He has the full resources of our general assistance director to investigate. Please.
Yep.
To investigate all of these things, which you don't have availability of those tools. Was there a reason you didn't contact Dr. Bethel on it?
Yeah.
Because when we received your bill,
Mhm.
there was a handwritten note from Dr. Bethel that he had not been contacted on any of this.
That's correct.
And that's why I sent it back at that time and
We're
said,
talking about two different things.
this needs to go to Dr. Bethel. And that was a decision he needed to make.
Okay, we're talking about two different things, Mr. Thompson. So I really want to focus on the decedent, but here's why I'm going to tell you I didn't contact Dr. Bethel, because the last time I did, his response was, I guess you're going to have to absorb it. Quote, unquote.
I wish he was here to be able to, you know,
I tried to talk to Dr. Bethel. He doesn't want to be involved. He doesn't want to be involved. And if I called Scholastic, we don't need to talk about indigent because we'll address that later, but I called Supervisor Scholastic and he told me to proceed. Okay, so if I should have called Dr. Bethel, I went back and called Dr. Bethel. And on that case, Dr. Bethel said, well, there's a wife, so the county won't pay. And then the other one was, guess you're gonna have to absorb it. So I just want to basically move forward with your descendant thing. You've got my information. And then from there, I think we'll address the indigent cases at a later date.
Is there? And evidently, Marty there, or Mark, pardon me, Jody. Is there something that Mr. Bethel and you and Marty have got crossways with him?
We're talking about descendant care, Bill, descendant transfer, decedent
Yeah.
transfer.
Yeah,
What's the problem? Why are you bidding it out? When we have an agreement. So I don't think you're talking about indigent cases. We don't need to talk about indigent cases. We just need to talk about the decedent care that you guys put out for bid. And I'm gonna go right back to you, Bill. What are the other counties doing?
The Bethels were the one that provided the contract from Story County, made modifications to it. Yeah, that contract was then sent on to the county attorney who looked at it. And it went out for bid.
Okay.
I think the easiest thing to do is bid on it or not. That's your choice.
Not a problem, but you understand the ramifications if you don't have a bid and we're not doing it, right?
From a perspective of government, they have to put bids out to everybody. Everybody needs to get an opportunity for a bite at the apple. If you or anybody else chooses for some reason or another not to take that bite, that is your decision, not anybody else's.
That's absolutely correct. But if you have 0 bids and 0 people doing it, who's gonna do it?
Then if that happens, I guess we'll have to cross that bridge when we come to it.
Okay, so the bids are opening December 6th. So when would you like Marty and I to be done with our current agreement with you?
All I can say is, go ahead and bid on it or not. That's your choice.
Gentlemen? Steve, you're gonna be on this a long time. Speak up,
No, that's fine.
speak up.
It's true that there are two different situations going on here, two different issues. For me, the issue has been with the folks that aren't able to pay. Now, you don't want to go there, and I don't understand that. I don't understand that. But I thought we had always been asked to step up if there was no ability to pay. I can't imagine Dr. Bethel saying you're gonna have to eat it.
That's what he said, he absorbed it in his career. But once again,
I'm
we're going,
hesitant to say that because he's not here to
yeah, let's
either accept or refute that.
we're talking about the indigent cases, and really what we need to be talking about is the transfer of decedent care, gentlemen. That's what we really need to be talking about. And I guess
But you brought up both instances.
if you
So you
want to
bring
talk,
it up, but you don't want to talk about
let's
it.
talk about it. What do you want to know? We're the only county in the state of Iowa that doesn't have indigent burial. Only county. I've spent hours of research on this, gentlemen. I did exactly what Bill said. What are the other counties doing? I've got Story counties. I've got Powesheik counties. I've got Grundy counties. Do you want to see them?
When we go back to that meeting that was held, which was a meeting with vendors, the recommendation that we had both by our mental health director, who was the one that was the individual that would make decisions for general benefits, for general assistance, and the VA director at that time, both strenuously recommended that there was no written policy and that each one be handled on a case-by-case basis with the medical examiner. Is that the way you remember it?
Yes.
Is that the way you remember it also?
Yes.
And that's why there was no written policy. Now, if you remember that differently, Nan was at that meeting, as was the three of us.
The letter I received says Marshall County policy. It doesn't say Marshall County unwritten policy. It's got your supervisor's name on it.
The way I remember it, that was that meeting.
Once again, it says Marshall County policy. It doesn't say Marshall County unwritten policy.
Yeah, we should have, probably a better word there would have been practice. Because Jill Eaton did recommend to, at that meeting to
Yes.
not have a policy
Yep.
because it'll be,
As did the VA director. They were. I think I would use the term adamant
And
that we
we,
did not.
and we had an agreement, if somebody didn't have any money, that your county is gonna pay $500.
And that's what I understand. That's
Right.
The way we stood as a county.
Right.
But the way I remember it is it needed to go through that the
Yes.
medical examiner had the ability, the resources and the tools to do the investigation of A, is their next of kin?
So what you're,
And B, please, B, did they have the ability to do any payment on it. Because very often over the years, I've heard Dr. Bethel, when we have our budget meetings, simply state that there's times when somebody has been estranged from a family member. They may have moved away. The individual family member is here. The nearest nest of kin is in California. They've been estranged for a number of years, and they just have no interest at all in paying for that person's burial or any expenses. But he had to have the opportunity to do that investigation.
And it was done to protect you and Marty both. We didn't want you to have to be giving away your services, so.
But from
If
my
it's not enough-
standpoint, he had to have the ability to do that investigation, not just the county receive a bill.
The county didn't. I talked to Slosik.
Okay,
You talked to me about paying a bill that you had.
That,
Yes.
about the one with no money.
Yeah,
And you told me to proceed.
and I did. And then I thought you were able to get money in that situation. Am I not?
we could, if Dr. Bethel had the opportunity to go through, there could have been funds that could come from, there's been other times when he's been able to get money. When everybody has said there's nothing available, and he's come back even sometimes a couple of years down the road where he has recovered the funds from family members. He's been extremely aggressive at pursuing.
So if it's a couple of years down the road, does that mean that Jody and Marty then have to wait for that 2-year period, or does it come back to the county?
I think it came back to the county.
Okay.
I think the dollars came out of general assistance in our mental health portion of our budget, and it was also shared. Part of the costs were also taken out of the VA's portion of the budget, also under general assistance.
Okay.
I know that's where the dollars would have come from and would have gone back to on our line item budget items.
Well, probably some of that is my fault, and I should have asked the question, did you work with Dr. Bethel?
Dr. Bethel said there was a wife and the county would not pay, and I had to absorb it.
I would never ask you to do that.
Look, it's fine. It's fine.
And once
It is.
again, he's not here to refute or accept and say, I said that.
Yeah.
So
Well,
we need to not dwell on that unless he has an opportunity to address that.
Steve, I plan to address the indigent burial after the first of the year. Marty and I both do. Okay, so back to the descendant care. I just want to make sure you guys understand. You didn't check what the other counties are doing. You sent, I mean, is your purpose to send the bid out to people outside of Marshall County and send our dollars to someone else? What happens if no one picks it up? What's going to happen? Who's going to transfer? I just don't think you thought it through very well.
Yeah, we'll have to rely on you for that.
I'd like to inject one thing in there too, from the standpoint of the rural fire departments. A lot of times we're required to, or asked to stay on the scene until the body is removed. But we have time spent on that too.
And if they're coming from out of town.
That's correct.
Mhm.
If the weather's bad, and there could be any number of circumstances where we would be asked to stay. So we could have acted.
When you say you're gonna rely on me, you're not gonna be relying on me and you're not gonna be relying on my colleague across town. So
Have you heard anything from Mr. Mitchell on this?
Nothing.
Neither have I.
No, I'm neither.
Just for what it's worth, with Kim Elder, Emergency Management. I just wanted to let you know that all of the funeral directors in our county have always been very, very cooperative in mass fatalities planning. And that is a huge part of our plan. So this does affect our plan if we go a different direction. So I definitely would like to be involved in that as EMA and EMS. EMS, I know, is overwhelmed in this county already. Not sure what you'll get as far as, anybody to bid on that. That's not my business as far as EMS, but I know they can't keep their ambulances staffed as it is. They're so busy, so. Just kind of some FYI information. We work really hard to make sure that and a mass fatality is anything that overwhelms your system. So that could be, four deaths, it could be 3 deaths, it could be 20 deaths. It depends on what your resources are at that time. So we definitely need our local resources as best we can.
Kim, thank you. And that's one point I pointed out to the supervisors is the amount of staff we do have, the amount of equipment we do have in vans and removals, 4-wheel drive units and cots. Right here. And we're willing to house them if the county needs us to.
We appreciate your time,
Mhm.
both of you, and sharing your expertise with us.
Thank you.
And best thing we can do is work on this a little bit. So,
What can we do once we get if we get bids on this, we can accept any or all bids or none of the bids that have.
You can accept, you can reject, you can re-propose, completely not do anything and go out again. It's totally up to whatever motions either of you were to make at that time. My only job is to run the meetings and make it go smooth.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
If I could interject as well, just to kind of piggyback a little bit off of, what everyone said, especially Kim, because Kim and I work pretty closely together as an element of obviously in EMA. When and if you decide to get the bids back, maybe before making a decision, look at what does it mean to have somebody here. So one of the things that Kim and I do a lot of is look at, okay, so what are our local resources and how can we best take those and maneuver those into, what works best in all situations. So she had mentioned like mass casualty incidents. That's a big one. And I'm very, very grateful that we haven't had to experience a lot of those, but Kim, I'm sure would agree with me that we have experienced a lot of things in which we need somebody in the here and now because we need those resources to then reallocate to another situation and another situation and another situation. Kim, do you agree with that?
Yeah, and like Rhonda said, if you have a large scale incident, it's not as simply as someone come pick up the decedent and transport. There's a lot of time involved there, investigation, law enforcement, medical examiner, which we work with all of them, and it takes a lot of time. So again, like Rhonda said, if you have another incident happen, which happens a lot, you don't realize that it does, where you need those firefighters, those law enforcement agencies, maybe even, another decedent somewhere else, definitely have to think about time. So time is really a huge resource that you can't duplicate. If and when you make those decisions, definitely, I think it needs to be sat down with the responding agencies or a representative of those, 911 and myself and first responders, law enforcement included, just because we have to look at how long that's going to take. And again, if you have a mass fatality overwhelming your resources already, the other incidents in the county don't stop. So the response still has to happen to those other incidents. So yeah, just thinking about those resources and that time factor, not just on scene, but again, transporting. It is all important, and I appreciate that you guys are stopping and thinking about all of those aspects.
Two major incidents that we could look at just over in the last several years are, number one, the tornado, where it was very difficult to get people in, and luckily there wasn't, a major MCI during that. But then you had the derecho, where again, we very much lucked out, but it could have been so much worse, where, we're looking at natural disasters, man-made disasters. I mean, we're looking at a lot of different things. So just, something to consider when you're looking at those, if you, however, what direction you choose to go or dismiss them and then restart over.
I really appreciate your input, both of you.
Yeah, a good example that, I'm sorry, good example that Madison County is a good example. You know, they were using all their resources and getting people in. It was a very quick response, but they had several decedents from that tornado. And they had to use not only their locals, you know, you got to make sure that you're keeping your locals close because you use them, but you also use outside of your county when you have something like that happen. So yeah, we've stayed really close to not only our local resources, but others. And I just think it's really important to think about all of it. But yeah, thank you for listening.
Yes, I guess in conclusion, then with what Kim has said, what Rhonda has said, gentlemen, I have tight-knit group of funeral directors from the closest funeral home around here, which would be Tama, Ames, Powashik, Des Moines, that have all called me on the letter that they've received. And nobody's bidding on it. I'm afraid you're not going to get a bid. And so you were in the meeting with Marty yesterday, correct? Marty and I's opinion is we feel like we did something wrong. You don't want to use this anymore. We've addressed the time frame. We've addressed the money issue. Okay, we're in line on both of them. So in conclusion, I'm just asking that you keep it local and do the right thing.
I don't think you've done anything wrong. I don't believe you've done anything wrong. It would be improper to say that. This was at the direction of Dr. Bethel and Mark Bethel on this. This going out for bid was discussed at probably the last 2 budget year meetings.
Doesn't mean you have to do it though.
They are the department heads. That is their job as the medical examiner. They're extremely difficult to get. So our primary mission is to make sure that we have a medical examiner.
Extremely hard to get people to
Because
do our jobs too.
if they walk out the door, there is an epic problem.
Just like if you don't have somebody to pick up the deceased human body, you're gonna have an epic problem.
You know, I would recommend you place your bid.
I'm not going to.
That is your choice. Anything else?
I just want to say, I don't want to alienate our people, you and Marty, so please keep that in the back of your mind here. We'll give this some thought and a lot of consideration. I appreciate that, Steve. I really do. Okay, really do.
We'll work it out.
Thanks, Bill.
Is there an issue between you and the medical examiner or
No.
anything that we need to be made aware of?
See, that's what we thought.
I did his mother's funeral for Pete's sakes. No,
Yeah, okay.
no. And I understand he's a department head, Dave. I understand that. I just,
Because we're getting a request from that side of the equation. And I guess you are coming at this completely different. And I want to make sure that there isn't
go ahead,
an issue that we are unaware of.
go ahead.
We were told that he didn't know this letter was going out.
He's the one that provided it.
That's what we-
That's
The
where we
contract.
got it, yeah.
Well, Mark did.
Mark
Yeah,
provided,
we're saying Dr. Bethel
Right.
had no idea. That's what we were told.
that's a possibility. The medical examiner's office exists of Dr. Bethel, Leah Bethel.
Yep.
And Mark.
Correct.
And they work in conjunction.
Mhm.
Mark cannot be the medical examiner because he is a death investigator. And evidently working for the Iowa Department of Public Health and
Yep.
doing extremely well at it.
He's not there.
Highly respected individual. I know that Dr. Bethel has had some health issues these
Yep.
last few months, so it's entirely possible that he was not made aware of it. I can't answer that. I'm not privy to that.
Yeah, and it just goes back to Mark is a great guy. He's a great guy, but he doesn't have 57 years of combined funeral expertise and experience.
Okay. Anything else on this matter? There being none, we're going to move on to item number 14 on our agenda today, which is public forum. This is a time set for the public to make comments on topics of county business other than those listed on this agenda. No action will be taken on any of these topics brought up in public forum. Who's got something for the good of the order?
I've got actually something, Kim, the sheriff and I have worked extensively on the trailer search for the 911 backup center, and overall usage. We did locate a company. We feel like we've got a great system. We got the invoice sent to us. We did forward that to Nan, so that'll be coming soon, but safely.
It's in the
right now-
bills today.
Oh,
Because we got a
excellent. It's in the bills
discount.
today. Perfect, yeah. So,
I'm
and
gonna
we
say
worked
that.
very hard on this, in the whole totality of it, but we do get a discount, for prepayment, which is perfect, anything that we can get. So right now, I can safely tell you to go ahead and remove 125,000 back into the ARPA funds, for savings, and then there may be more to come, but as of right now, I feel like we can, safely say that. I think this is going to be an absolute outstanding project that's going to last us for years and years and years to come. The sheriff is going to get some great usage out of it. EMA is going to 911. So this is going to be an overall very, very, very big positive for Marshall County. So we're very
Tremendous.
excited.
Good news, especially putting money back into the ARPA fund.
Yeah.
Hopefully that can go into some paving down at Wolf Lake.
A little ways.
It'll, yeah, about 5 feet.
The length of these tables.
5 foot at a time, 5 foot at a time. Yeah, we've got a little bit more work to do on it, but yeah, like Rhonda said, we've worked really hard to be diligent and make sure it's something that will last us a long time, be multifunctional, and just in general, watching the budget. So we had a lot of different options out there, but this one seems to make the most sense, and looks like we should be working with a new system by next summer. So.
Okay. Anything else?
I have,
John?
As you know, Marshall County residents contribute approximately $40,000 to the Marshalltown Public Library yearly. My comments have to do with the apparent refusal by the Marshalltown Public Library to follow library policy regarding patron access to an additional magazine and newspaper. Following library protocol, I requested that subscriptions to the American Rifleman magazine and Epic Times newspaper be purchased and the magazine and paper be displayed on a periodical shelf at the library. I also attended the library board meeting. A clear reason for refusing the magazine has not been given. Refusing the paper is based on an unchecked fact checker's claim that reporting was inaccurate. The right-leaning imperfect newspaper that I'm requesting would provide a good balance to the left-leaning imperfect New York Times currently on the shelf. Library policy regarding additions to the collection can be found on the library's website, and the extensive freedom to read statement, which the library claims to adhere to, can be read on the American Library Association's website. I'm left to believe that staff bias has replaced policy on this matter. The staff is judge and jury with no further recourse open to patrons. I believe that until library staff displays an open mind and appreciates patrons' efforts to add timely materials to the collection, that county financing undergo reevaluation. Hoping that merely the hint of such action will encourage library staff to perform at a higher level. Thank you.
Okay. Public forum, we can't take any action. I think the most appropriate time for you to maybe address that would be at the upcoming budget meeting that is coming up for the libraries. And we haven't set our total calendar for when those meetings are going to be with the individual departments. But you may want to keep in contact with Sherry on when that is going to be. And our budget meetings are totally open to the public. The saddest part is we spend about $26 million in the 12 years I've been in the office. Not one single member of the general public has ever come to any of our budget meetings. Absolutely astounds me.
I'll try to change it.
Good government requires active participation. You've heard me say that for 12 years. please participate. That goes for you as well. When the medical examiner's budget comes out, I would appreciate it if you would be
I
there.
will be there.
That would be the best and most
I'm
effective.
just learning how this all works, so I will be there. Yeah.
Government has to be transparent.
absolutely.
Everybody has to be on an equal footing and get an equal opportunity, or there's just, everybody gets an opportunity to address any grievances. It's one of the wonderful things in our Constitution. We take an oath to follow not only the United States Constitution, but that of the state of Iowa.
Absolutely.
Will you be participating in that budget meeting, you and Bill?
If it's held before January 1st, yes.
Okay.
Our term in office officially expires on January 1st. We thought it was the end of the calendar year this year, but because of the way the calendar falls,
It's the way
Nan
the
has
holiday-
told us they're gonna get an extra day out of us.
Yeah, it's just the way the calendar falls this year.
So I can't answer that because I don't know where it's going to fall in the budget cycle when those meetings are. In the past, we've tried to handle the very easy budget meetings first to get them out of the way and to give individuals like Paul with the engineers, the sheriff, buildings and grounds, the ability for those individuals to take more time and work on their budgets. So we typically handle those later in the budget meeting cycle.
Okay, I'd like to thank you and Bill for your time. On behalf of everyone around Greenville. You set a pretty high standard, so I'm sure that Steve can.
Little pressure here, John. No pressure.
Well,
Thank you.
we tried hard to get the sewer system. And goodness sakes, we've had problems with that. But it's gonna come. It's gonna get done.
You helped us with the streetlight district and you've helped us with the proposed fire department and various other things too, so that took a lot of time.
We've tried to do our best. It's like the oath says, to the best of your abilities.
Thank you.
And we've given you what we can and we appreciate your comments. Thank you. It's been an honor and a pleasure to serve you. Anything else for the good of the order?
Gentlemen, I just want to say that I had an opportunity to attend the rededication over the weekend, and job well done to everybody, Lucas, Nan. I didn't get a chance to really talk to anybody when I left. I got called to work, but I did see your wife. So I got a chance to say hi to her, but no, I think that was a really good thing for Marshall County.
Did you get some of the cookies?
I got called to work. I had to go to work. So,
We had carry out.
Yeah,
Thanks for your comment.
yeah.
Yeah.
you bet. No,
appreciate that.
Great.
It's never happened that you have not had a public comment. So is this going to be a first?
Few and far between.
I'd like to stay for 1 minute, so just hurry. I'm kidding. We serve on a board together.
Yes, I do have to say, I just want to thank everybody for Saturday. We had people that stayed long and hard and worked long and hard. James had people completely riveted in his department with the Matterport stuff, and
That was really cool.
it was a fun day. It was exhausting, but it was really fun for the community. Could have been a little warmer.
I've been parked a block or half away.
Yeah, it was bad, but I appreciate all the help and all the folks that volunteered. Current and former employees.
Yeah,
We're there.
you think we had 1,000 people?
Yeah,
Because.
Oh, easy.
just under.
Yeah.
The Des Moines paper had it at 100.
They missed a zero, and
Yeah.
it's a number that doesn't really mean that much.
Yeah, there was maybe
Rededication
100 in the
events,
rotunda.
yeah, not the tour
Right.
open house, but the actual
Yeah.
seating and,
Yeah.
and presentation order.
Yeah, there was way more people there than 100 when you started
Oh, yeah.
looking down the stairs at people that couldn't see and up on 4 and.
It was standing room only,
Oh, yeah.
everywhere.
So it was a fun event.
So,
Going once?
Didn't want to disappoint you.
Going twice? You never disappointed us. Okay, if there's nothing else under public forum, we're gonna move on to item number 15, which is adjournment. The next regular session is December 6th, 2022 at 9:05 a.m. All business to be acted upon at that session should be submitted to the county auditor and recorder's office or the board of supervisors office by Wednesday, November 30th, 2022 at 12 p.m. There being no further business to come before the board, this meeting is adjourned at 10:30 a.m. Thank you, everybody, for coming.